2025 invoice list in the amount of $348,977.73. The November 21st, 2025 invoice list in the amount of $247,584.53, and the adjustment list dated November 13th, 2025. Walk us through these?
Yes. On the first November 14th list, that totals $348,977.73. You're gonna start seeing more invoices related to the Great Lakes Bay, Michigan works. So there's a lot of them on this first page, which is rents at the various locations in Midland and in the other counties and Isabella County as well. So you'll start to see them more. And then we also have Preston Community Services for $19,375. And we have a Mission Creek Drain payment to High Point Community Bank for $29,519.83. And then a couple items related to the treasurer's office.
Just seen this. Any questions on the November 14th list? Okay.
On the November 21st list, $247,584.53, general fund portion, $12,872.16. Here we have one from administration for advanced benefit solutions for the international 90-day prescriptions of $8,574.89. Couple related to drains, we got contracted labor with manpower for the recycling center of $6,730.34. And a couple items related again to the treasurer's department.
Any questions on the November 21st list?
Okay, on the adjustments list dated November 13th, we have the usual ones of Gordon Food Service and consumers. Those are put in to avoid late fees and to get early payment discounts. We do have a couple additional ones on the top to Broadway Land Management. That was to correct that additional lease space was not invoiced and paid for the March. That was that new space that the prosecutor's office started to take starting in March for conference space. So those additional invoices were put on this. One total $6,608 and the other one is $1,888.
Questions on the adjustment list? Okay, if no questions there, we will move those items to next week's regular board meeting. And item 2 is consider approving the ambulance service agreement between Isabella County and Mobile Medical Response Incorporated effective January 1st, 2026 until December 31st, 2030. And authorize the board chairperson and the county clerk to sign the same.
So this contract has been every 5 years. They come in front of the county board as explained by Brett from MMR previous on this. So the contract is pretty much the same as was the last number of times. This has went through legal counsel for their review, and this would put our contract for 5 years ending December 31st, 2030. And again, this does not require any millage funds or general fund from the county. That this is no taxpayer dollars are utilized for this.
It's always a good thing.
So
Okay, any questions or comments there? MMR does a terrific job. Move that item to next week's regular meeting. And item 3 is consider approving the Community Corrections Fiscal Year 2026 Grant Award between Isabella County and the Michigan Department of Corrections in the amount of $123,125 and authorize the board chairperson to sign this.
we have carry on.
Good morning. So this is our standard award request for 2026. The only difference is we have discontinued the sobriety court interlock program due to lack of participation. So that did reduce our grant by $4,500. Otherwise, we're offering all of the same program we've previously offered.
That was a voluntary program, I take it, that.
So that program was for individuals participating in sobriety court. So it allowed them to have interlock devices placed on their vehicle so that they could work towards getting their license back, because interlock is like a mandatory part of that. And we just were not utilizing it enough for the state to continue to fund it. So they discontinued it. If we have individuals who need it through the sobriety court, we have other ways to help them reduce the barriers.
Okay, excellent. Any questions? Comments? Okay, thank you, Carrie. And we'll move this item to next week's meeting. And brings us down to item 4, consider approving the fiscal year 26 agreement for services between Isabella County and the Tri-County Community Adjudication Program, TRICAP, in an amount not to exceed $36,890, and authorize the board chairperson to sign the same.
So this is the contract that goes along with the previous one. This allows us to offer the TRICAP services for the opiate meth program to participants, so they can attend this program and receive these services free of charge. It is paid for by the grant, but we just need to solidify the contract that allows the TRICAP to bill us for that and for us to offer the service. So it's been very successful over the last few years. I don't have the data, but we could get that since Andy is not here today.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions on that one? Okay, thank you. And we will move to next week's meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Item 5, consider approving the purchase of a John Deere 554P wheel loader at a cost of $258,529.44 using 2% funds, which would then be submitted for reimbursement back to the tribal 2% individual program awards under the terms of the contract agreement with the Saginaw Chippewa Indian Tribe regarding the EPA infrastructure grant, and authorize board chairperson to sign the same.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
As you can see, we've already made one purchase off this EPA grant for a forklift. The timeline on that reimbursement, I believe we were looking at total on the reimbursement with 3 months and 26 days, so not quite 4 months for the complete reimbursement on that. Just to kind of get that covered up front. What we're looking at is, as you can see with what was submitted, there was a few different quotes here. One for John Deere, and I think we had one for a Doosan or Devlin. What we're finding, and from doing enough research on it, is that what is offered through John Deere, the guards and things of that nature, helps us immensely compared to the other pieces of equipment. And hence the reason why our recommendation was to purchase John Deere over the other piece of equipment. There's also a tremendous reimbursement or a tremendous discount through My Deal program. I think the original quote price on that particular unit was $350,783 with $112,250.56 in discounts through my deal on that purchase over the John Deere. One of the other biggest reasons that we recommend the John Deere over the Devlin is the fact that there is resale value is tremendously higher when it comes to being able to trade that piece of equipment in or sell that piece of. Any other questions?
Yes, sir.
So I see you still have two additional components, part of that original grant. Are those being delayed because of cash flow issues or?
I think that that's part of the reason why that's, and it's a matter of, it's more, to be honest, Commissioner, the fact that we want to make sure that we're getting reimbursed off of each individual piece rather than trying to spend all that money all at once and then waiting on that reimbursement. We've part of the reason why we purchased the high-low to start with was to make sure that the EPA was going to be able to allow that reimbursement to come back because there was some unsurety with what's going on at the national level. We wanted to make sure that they were still going to honor that grant through the tribe. So we purchased that high-low for that reason at a lower price. And now we're moving on to the next piece. So it'll be piecemeal as we continue through.
What year loader do you have now?
At this point, we do not have a loader.
You don't have a loader?
We have a skidster, which is I think a 2024
Okay,
or I think, or it may be listed as a 25 because it was purchased within this year, but
that was my next question. Do you need one this big? Seems kind of a larger.
it is something that is needed at this point, being able to help load glass out, to move brush around, things of that nature.
Okay,
It just is the reasoning for justification.
yeah. So you do not have a trade-in or anything for this?
Or,
Like to purchase this, there's nothing you're trading in?
no,
Okay,
not at this point.
yeah, I was just curious.
Yes, sir.
I was just gonna say, I think the board would wish you success in your retirement.
Yeah.
You're gonna be missed and appreciate your service to the county.
Appreciate that, sir.
Definitely.
Absolutely. Any other questions? Okay, thank you. And we will move this item to next week's board meeting. And item 7 is consider approving the contract between the County of Isabella as a fiscal agent for Great Lakes Bay Michigan Works and Cindy Van Summeren for case management services beginning 10/1/25 through 9/30/26 and authorize the board chairperson to sign this. We are celebrating. Pardon me? Did you do the roads? Nope. I skipped one, didn't I? All right, let me back up a little bit. I get ahead of myself. I do tend to get ahead of myself at times. Thank you. Item 6, consider approving the lease agreement between, you let me read all that before you.
You're not alone. I didn't want to interrupt.
Consider approving the lease agreement between Broadway Land Management LLC and Isabella County for a 1-year term beginning November 19th, 2025 through November 19th, 2026, and authorize the board chairperson to sign the same.
No one here from the prosecutor's office, so this right here, the original lease that they had in 210 Broadway, but there was an amended space needed that the board approved back in February for the 200 location. And so combining those in there, the monthly base rent will go up to $4,739.70, which is a 5% increase over the combined two leases that we currently have right now. And that second space that they had was just because they had no conference space for any discussion, so that's why they needed that additional square footage in that other technical building.
Yes.
We'll try to talk here a little bit. Just to let you know that we were talking earlier, the RFP was posted for the county building, so that's being posted out. So just let everybody know that that's legal and it's out there now, so.
Good. This kind of illustrates a need to get going on that
Mhm.
5% increase to this lease, so. Any other questions, comments? All right, we'll move that item to next week's meeting. And now item 7. Consider approving the contract between the County of Isabella as a fiscal agent for Great Lakes Bay Michigan Works and Cindy Van Sumeren for case management services beginning 10/1/25 through 9/30/26, and authorize board chairperson to sign this.
So this is on behalf of Great Lakes Bay Michigan Works, just a contract with Miss Van Summerlin that'll provide consultant services to the Great Lakes Bay Michigan Works in-school program with the goal of increasing program enrollment and performance measures. This is funded from an outside funding sources from the state, and so therefore it's no general funds are being used for this contract.
Any questions? Okay, we'll move that item to next week's meeting. And item 8, consider approving budget amendment 2026-05 BOC for Fund P519 PA 123 attorney fees, and authorize board chairperson to sign the same.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So when I originally did my budget for 26, I didn't put in nearly enough attorney fees for all the claims that we were gonna have for the 21178T process. So we've already paid out on like 5 of them, just over $100,000. Next month, we have another 5 to pay, about 124,000, and then we have 13 left that are in the Fox case look back. So between filing for the hearing dates and all the responses, I thought it was a good idea to get an attorney to do that. I tried to do a few myself, but it's a little in-depth on the legal side, so I have a very good representative that's been helping with that.
Excellent. Any questions? Okay, thank you. And item 9, consider approving the removal of the long-term advance from the general fund to the drain revolving fund in the amount of $150,000 and to reclassify the original 2020 transaction as a permanent use of general fund unassigned fund balance consistent with the Drain Commissioner's 8/21/2020 staff report.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
So looking through the financial statements, I see that this has been sitting out as a receivable, obviously since 2020. We have not collected a thing on it. I'm not expecting to collect a dime on it. And the reason for that is looking back at the Drain Commissioner's staff report, they never intended to borrow money from the general fund. That drain revolving fund needed to up their permanent working capital to be able to fund all the other drains as they're getting repaired, as they're getting built. And a lot of these drains can't be assessed until they're done. They can't, so looking at I had always wondered why this had sat out there for quite some time. And looking at it, the original intent was for the general fund to transfer out of the unreserved funds that the general fund had, transfer that cash to build up that fund so that they have that permanent working capital sitting there. Unfortunately, somehow this got changed over to become a loan. And again, we've never collected on it. Now, I will say that the drain revolving fund has borrowed since 2020 from the general fund and authorized by the board $200,000, and they've paid that back. So the balance that remains in this long-term advance to drain revolving fund is still that $150,000. So my ask is that I would like to clear this off our books. It's a receivable we're not going to collect. So in my opinion, our receivables are overstated, and I would really like to clear that off our books.
Okay. Any questions?
So
Just
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
I just, can you, for me, run through reasoning why we're not collecting?
Yes. So So the background from the Drain Commissioner Willoughby's staff report was that the drain revolving fund had allocated $267,000 in working capital. And it gets reimbursed annually with collections from tax assessments, so drain assessments, on those drains. The revolving fund was last increased back in 2014. And the date, by the way, the date of the staff report was 2020, August of 2020. So 6 years prior to this ask, it was last increased up to the 267,000. They had come and asked the general fund to increase it by 150 grand at that time to get it to 267,000. Maintenance costs and demand for maintenance work have continued to increase to the extent that the allocated working capital in the drain revolving fund is not sufficient to meet the current costs, and it's causing delays in maintenance in current petitioned projects. In other words, they didn't have that working capital to float everything they were needing to do. The financial impact that they noted on here was funds to come from unreserved fund balance from general fund. And then the recommendation was move to approve the attached budget amendment and transfer approved money from the general fund unreserved fund balance to the drain revolving fund to be designated as permanent working capital. So that was what was brought to the August 25th, 2020 finance meeting. But then the next week, when we got to the full board meeting, workshop and a full board meeting, the motion was written differently, and it was written to be a long-term advance. So completely different than what this original ask was. And I have no documentation of a payment plan. I have nothing that says that drain revolving fund agreed to a loan from the general fund. So somehow something got changed, and this went from an ask from the general fund to bump that permanent working capital up so they can, cover their drains, to, okay, now this is a 5-year or, a 5-year or more loan, long-term advance. The board passed this, voted on it, and then it's sat ever since, and we've never, it's really uncollectible, because should the general fund demand these funds back from the drain revolving fund, the drains will be forced to come before you and ask for money again to get, otherwise we're going to halt the work they're doing. So somehow back then this got changed.
Right, and we don't know whether it got changed on purpose, and we voted on it as a lien. Or you're saying it just,
To my recollection,
looking back
it got
4
changed.
years. Right, I mean. So I guess my point is voted on as a lien and.
As an advance, a long-term advance, as a loan.
Right. And now we're looking at, or you're asking to write it off.
I'm coming to tell
As
you
for-
that it's definitely uncollectible.
It's uncollectible.
Because they never intended it to be, drains never, and revolving fund never
Well,
intended.
okay, so the
take out a loan.
first report is different from what was voted on.
Yes, sir.
And we don't know what happened in between there.
Prior administration changed.
Right, no, I understand there are lots of changes, and it's really hard to go back 5 years and know what the intent was, right? But we do know what was voted on,
Yes,
Yes.
yes, sir.
right? You have to go slow with me because I'm
Sorry.
working this through in my head, and so we've got a voted.
Yes, this board passed the motion to record it as
Right.
a long-term advance to drains.
And I realize that we can reverse that with another vote, but whether, I'm not sure I've made it all the way to 100% to why this isn't an open lien.
I think 5 of us were here, and I was just trying to recapture what the discussion was. I think we're trying to be good stewards of the taxpayers' money. And somehow I think was a lot of wishful thinking that at some point the drain would be able to repay that back to the general fund, but I can see, with additional projects and inflation, it's not gonna happen. And it's just not gonna happen.
And if we were to take this back, we're just gonna have to give it right back anyways as working capital.
And maybe more. You know, with inflation and whatnot.
That meeting was recorded on YouTube, so could go back and look and see what discussion took place there, just so we understand.
Right.
What was the date on that again?
The board meeting was, yes, September 1st of 2020.
Yeah, you've got the agenda here in the.
Yeah.
Was that
In the
the
staff
Board of
report.
Commissioners meeting was September 1st of 2020?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Do we have the minutes for the finance committee that went in there? Did it?
I'm sorry, not minutes from the finance committee. I'm sorry, I only included the minutes from the full board meeting.
Maybe
to show
something
that it
that-
passed.
Maybe see what was presented to finance committee, see if it changed even before it got to finance? And I'm sorry I didn't catch that earlier.
No, that's okay. Finance is where that staff report would have went to.
Okay,
Work session and full board meeting is where the change came before you. My issue obviously as the finance director is, you know, we're showing a long-term receivable.
Right.
That we're
It's not real.
we're not gonna collect. And I don't know that it would be fair to call it uncollectible. It would be if the board says, no, we're gonna stand with what we originally did in 2020. So then it just sits there. And then yes, we would call it uncollectible if the board so choose to do that. But what I'm asking you to do is, if the board agrees with me that this probably shouldn't have been a long-term advance. I'm asking the board to let me do a journal entry per our auditors and change this. So that it's not reflected as a receivable at all, not write it off. Writing it off means, yes, we agree that this is a receivable, you know, we can't collect it. I'm not asking to write it off. I'm asking to, if the board agrees that this should have been recorded differently in the first place and not a long-term loan, I'm asking the board, you know, permission to, you know, remove that outdated long-term advance and reclassify this as it should have been back in 2020. This would have been just a transfer out from general fund to drain revolving fund.
Sorry to give you so much trouble.
You're
but,
fine.
So what's the outcomes if we deny this come Board of Commissioners meeting?
It just keeps sitting there on our financial statement showing that we've got $150,000 expected receivable.
So if we deny you, there's no resolution
Right,
to.
right. There's no change to your
With Drain
financials.
Commission.
It just keeps on the books.
Right, but there's no resolution with Drain Commission of the 150,000.
No, sir.
Okay,
And again, they have, they did come to the board, they borrowed 200,000, a little bit after that, paid that back per the agreement they made. And their staff report reflected that when they came and made the ask too, by the way, for that other 200,000.
They wouldn't have enough working capital to pay that back.
Not at all.
That was bad.
No, my thought is probably what would happen is if they had to take 150,000 out of there right now and general, let's say general funds calling in that debt and says, hey, you know, we have to have that paid back. So they pay back the 150,000. Now they're short with their working capital and now we have drains not getting built, not getting fixed. You know, until they can get assessed. That's how drains raises their funding, of course. You know, to pay for these things is once they can get the drains done, then they can assess.
Yeah.
And I do believe there is a mechanism for the drains to, for the drain commissioner to assess drains as for maintenance. I have not delved into that with the drain commissioner at all. I think that would be, you know, a time for a different meeting with them to discuss that part of it. It's kind of a different thing than what we're talking about right now. But that may be a way to help future requests from the drains to bump up that drain revolving fund. Because inflation is gonna make it where they're obviously gonna need more money for their working capital, right? To fund everything. So maybe being able to assess the initial maintenance fees on some of these drains in the future would definitely help us going forward. From the general fund not having to, you know, give them money to bump that up. My concern is just that this is sitting here, it's been sitting there. I don't think it's going away.
Right. I guess my concern is that, we're going back and revising history from assumptions, because we weren't there, or we were there, but we have poor memories. I do.
That's for sure.
And essentially, for lack of a better word, we're writing off $150,000 that, for all intensive purposes, it looks like the board voted as a lead.
The board did vote it as a long-term advance to
a
them with the
long-term
intention of getting it back. That's what the
Right,
motion read, yeah,
right.
yes.
Um,
So the cash, as far as what would happen financially right now today, if the board said, yes, go ahead and let's take this off our books, there is no financial,
right,
right? Because the money already left the general fund back in 2020. And our bank account doesn't change today, that all happened back in 2020. Obviously, we don't go back either, just to clarify, we don't go back if this would be approved. We would not go back and rewrite financial statements and make changes to those audited financial statements. By all means, I would reach out to our auditors for the specific entry with their guidance, and probably use that as my background also to scan in, just so that we all know what happened. If you choose to leave it on the books, it's left on the books, but then I think we're gonna need to have further conversations with Drains on collecting, because it's not looking like, they didn't think that they were paying, they didn't think this was a loan, according to their staff report. So, and there is no.
well, the staff report from the week before that it was voted on. So the week before it was voted on, the staff wrote it not as a loan, but during that week, we don't know what discussions happened to have that vote.
Right.
So assuming that they don't know that vote was what they in the end were expecting, is, I don't think, an accurate statement. We can definitely say that a week before they've submitted a report that this was not that we were going to float their budget so they can keep on going. So, I mean, we have to be clear about our assumptions.
Okay, I did have conversations with, I did speak with, the deputy drain commissioner on this, but when it caught my eye, and I'm thinking, what's going on with this? And so her and I sat down and we had several conversations, and that's where I come up with my wording is, it was never the intent. However, they could have handled it differently too. Obviously, they could have come back to the board the very next board meeting. For whatever reason, that didn't happen.
Okay.
Yeah, excuse me. I think like the maintenance fees are set within the drain code. And to change those fees, I think it has to come through the change of the drain code through the state.
Right.
So I know conversation we've had with the drain commissioner, or I've had, and probably this board, is that those maintenance fees have not kept up with what it actually costs, to actually fix the drains now. So, and anything extra to do that, then there's a petition, public meeting, whole process that goes through to get anything in there. So those maintenance fees are usually, I don't know if there's a lot of money left to grab from them, because I think they pretty well use them as much as they can, because in fact, they usually can't completely fix the drain. They can just do, some of the maintenance is not updated because there's not enough money in there to say that.
That's my understanding as well.
Yeah, it's just, some of the stuff that maybe needs to be done, like maybe some trimming of trees over the tile lines and stuff, they get delayed because there's just no money in those. They can do small fixes, a blowout or something to go in there, but that'll pretty well take most of the maintenance fees out of there. So then if they want to do a bigger fix, then they have to have a petition, go through the whole process.
I think you're right. The drain code does set the limits on the maintenance assessment for the drains. And I think I read something not too long ago that there was something afoot to increase that dollar that dollar threshold, but whether it was passed by the legislature or was just something that was being proposed. But I'm sure the Drain Commission Association's working on that. It ought to be.
About a 4 or 5 year process. I don't know where it's at, but they've been asking for that for quite a long time.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Josh, thank you. Thank
Is
you.
there any other data that board would like to see that I could pull for them? I mean, other than what I pulled, what I could, what I thought would be the most
If we do have minutes from
from the actual finance meeting.
the actual finance meeting,
Okay, I will look at that. Absolutely.
And in the meantime, we can always go back and watch a YouTube video and see what the conversation was
Okay.
around that item.
Mhm.
Might be interesting. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Watch the video, maybe you had darker hair back 5 years ago.
We probably all did, yes. Okay, that completes that. The business items, and we are down to general public comments. You want the general public comment? And seeing no one rush up to the table for general public comment announcements, any announcements? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I zoomed into Health and Human Services MAC committee yesterday, and there was presentations about the opioid process by Amy. I can't remember her last name, starts with a D, but anyway, and also some other stuff like the legislative update. And I will send you I think that was recorded too, but I'll check everything out and I'll email it to the commissioners. A lot of that good news really about budget and stuff.
And what kind of meeting was that again?
It was the Health and Human Services MAC committee.
Okay, any other announcements? Anything else? Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thanksgiving.